Hello guys, welcome to this Endless ATC course. This time is the intermediate level. So, just a quick reminder, download the pro version if you can, because otherwise you're not going to be able to recreate the scenarios that I put in this course. So if you have the possibility, go ahead and download the pro version. So, after this third installment, you're going to be a pro. You're going to be able to create beautiful and smooth sequences. Even if you have tons of traffic, you're not going to freak out. You're going to adapt to the situation. If the traffic changes, or you're receiving a lot of traffic from one side of the radar, you're not going to freak out, and you're going to be able to apply all the concepts that I told you during this course, and you're going to kill it. So of course this video is going to be a bit long, but it's very important that you pay attention to all the topics that I talk about, because otherwise you're not going to interiorize it. So pay attention, stay here until the end of the video, and of course at the end of it, if you like really the video, hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel, because it's going to be very useful. Okay, so let's go ahead. So let's go ahead with the content. In this case, of course, I recommend you to follow some requirements, because the concepts that you're going to hear in this installment are quite advanced. So probably you will need to understand some more basic concepts. So the first step is to go to the beginner level video and to watch it, and then to practice in Yankee Sierra Sierra Yankee for at least 5 hours, and from those 5 hours, at least 1 hour without any separation incident. Then next step is going to be to watch the elementary level, which you're going to see some more intermediate concepts. And after that, you're going to practice in Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot, the scenario that I created there. And you're going to practice as well 5 hours. And from those 5 hours, you will need at least 2 hours without any separation incident. So after that, you will qualify for this installment. Of course, it's your decision, because it's your time and I completely respect it, but I recommend you to watch those videos before. So this is the content that you're going to see in this installment, intermediate level. And the most important parts are wake turbulence, aircraft performance, advanced separation, and advanced sequencing. But of course, it's going to be very useful to stay from the beginning until the end, because there are some concepts that might be relevant in some situations. So let's go with Navaids first. Why I'm even putting this topic into the conversation, where in today's world we have more advanced technology. Now we have other methods of navigating, so we don't rely heavily on Navaids today. The most famous ones are the distance measuring equipment, the VOR and non-directional beacon, but for the purpose of Endless ATC, we're going to focus only on the VOR. So in this case, if we want to travel from Hatcherville to Lunacy, you needed to have some reference, because you couldn't fly directly from Hatcherville to Lunacy, because the airplanes didn't have the equipment to recognize the path that they were following. So in this case, you would need a few VORs that were strategically located, and they were built on the ground, so the traffic could easily follow the path and fly to Lunacy. Another use that was given to the VOR is the final approach procedure. So you usually have one VOR built in the airport, and then the procedure is that the plane flies directly towards the VOR, then does a fly out procedure and flies directly to the VOR again. But when the plane is flying directly to the VOR, it's already in the final path, so it's safe. So this is the procedure that the plane would follow. Of course, now this procedure is not considered a precision approach in today's world, but the use that we're going to give to the VORs are that it simplifies the vectoring procedure, because instead of giving a lot of vectors, we can give a direct vector to, in this case, Tango Romeo Papa, and then give another vector which is strategically given in order to create a sequence. So in this case, we would give a vector which is fly direct Trapo, and then from Trapo fly heading 090, and then the planes would be already in the sequence. to the final path. Just remember, you can give a direct vector to trouble, and then you can give the conditional after trouble. You can fly 090. So let's talk about wind correction here, because even though this is not that relevant in Endless ATC, because usually the wind is calm in the scenarios, but there are some scenarios where you're going to put that the wind is strong. So in those situations, you need to bear in mind the wind component. So let's say that the plane is flying this course, because you want this plane to fly 090. Then there is a wind component. So this wind is blowing, it's pushing this plane from this direction to this direction. So by the fact, the plane is going to do a different course than the decided course, and this is the actual course. So to compensate that, if you want the plane to come here and then you have this wind component, you need to compensate another angle in order to keep the plane in this course. You will give this heading, and then even though the plane will be diagonally looking towards this course, the plane is going to do this route. So how do you do the calculations? You don't need to even do any calculations because I already did it for you. In this case, let's say that in the final path, in the sequences, normally the planes fly at 200 knots. So I did the calculations, and you already need to bear in mind, you only need to bear in mind really, when the wind is at least 13 knots, usually it's going to be up 20 knots, and there is at least 45 degrees difference on the wind component. So for example, if the plane is flying 090 and then the wind is blowing from here, from 045, in this case you will need to compensate the course that you're giving. For example, in this case you would need to give 0.85 instead of 0.90 in order to compensate the wind factor. So this is the first important concept, the wake turbulence, because it directly affects our sequences. So what is the wake turbulence? The wake turbulence is the unstable air that is created in the vortex of the wings, and this is created because the air that is passing below goes with a higher pressure than the airflow that is going above the wings. So when those different pressures meet, they create this unstable air. It's very dangerous for planes to travel just behind this unstable air. So in this case, each plane has a wake turbulence category, and the categories are as follows, even though I already simplified because there are even more subcategories inside these categories. But just as a quick reference, you will have, for example, the light traffics. Just to simplify everything, if there is a Cessna, if there is a Diamond or a Learjet, they are usually going to be category light. And then the medium, you have the medium, is usually airliners. The most famous ones, Boeing 737, the Airbus 320, the Airbus 321, and similar sizes. They are going to always be medium. Then you have the heavy. Of course, there are subcategories within the medium and the heavies, but yeah, the general category is heavy, and usually are going to be like the Airbus 350, the Boeing 787, the Airbus 340, and similar sizes. And then you have the last category, which is the super, which is the Airbus 380 only. So this is the only plane that is considered super. So, as I told you before, you need a minimum separation because it's very dangerous for a smaller plane to fly just behind unstable air. So in this case, always is better to apply a 1000 feet separation, because when there is at least 1000 feet separation, then you ensure that you're not going to meet anyways. And why is that important? It's not that important when the planes are at different levels, but it's very important if you're doing sequences, because there is an ILS, and in the ILS the traffics are descending. So there is a potential risk of these traffics going less than 1000 feet separated, And in this case, if you are just behind the unstable air, this is very dangerous. You're going to see here the example. So when you reach to the situation, this plane is inside the wake turbulence. So in this case, this is dangerous situation. So always you need to apply a minimum horizontal distance, even if you already applied the 1000 feet separation, because when you're doing the sequence and you're in the ILS, if this above traffic descends, you're going to ensure that there is no interference. And here, when the minimum distance is respected, this is what you achieve. You make it safer. So what is the minimal horizontal distance due to wake turbulence? In this case, just pay attention to this diagram. So when the light traffic is in front of a heavier traffic, there is no wake turbulence separation, because the wake turbulence that a lighter traffic generates doesn't affect the traffic that is heavier. Okay, so always will be when a lighter traffic is behind a heavier traffic. So therefore there is not going to be any wake turbulence when a light traffic is in front of any other traffic. So let's see the different situations. When a medium traffic is the preceding traffic, there's only one situation where there is minimum distance due to wake turbulence, is when a light traffic is behind a medium traffic. When a light traffic is behind a medium traffic, there is a 5 nautical miles separation. Always bear in mind, when there is a light traffic behind a medium traffic, 5 nautical miles separation. Of course, always 1000 feet, but 5 nautical miles separation as well. The other situation is when the preceding traffic is a heavy traffic. In this situation, you have 3 different outcomes. Ironically, when a heavy is behind a heavy, it's still dangerous, but the distance is less. In this case, when a heavy traffic is behind a heavy traffic, you apply a 4 nautical miles wake turbulence separation. When it's a medium traffic behind a heavy traffic, there is going to be a 5 nautical miles separation. And when it's a light traffic behind a heavy traffic, it's going to be a 6 nautical miles separation. And then the last situation is when the preceding traffic is a super. The same applies for the super. When a super is behind a super, it's a 4 nautical miles separation, but the distance increases when the succeeding traffic is lighter. When there is a heavy traffic behind a super, it's 6 nautical miles, medium behind a super 7, light behind a super 8. So of course, obviously, this is not the ideal situation to sequence a light traffic behind a super, because that is going to create a huge gap. How you're going to recognize which category is the plane that you're dealing with in Endless ATC? You have the indicator for wake turbulence category, and you're going to find them. Here you have some examples. This is normally an arrival, this is normally a departure. So if you pay attention close to this last row, you're going to usually see the letter of the category. So in this case, this traffic, which obviously if we go back is a Boeing 757, so it's a heavy traffic, and in this situation you see that is the A380. You have the Juliet category, which is the super. So this is how you recognize the wake turbulence category within a traffic that you see on the radar. And it will help you to plan better the sequences in advance, because if you already know that a medium traffic goes 5 nautical miles behind a heavy, you might decide to put heavy traffic instead because it's only 4. And please notice that the category M for medium is default, so you won't see it. So whenever you don't see any letter, it means that the traffic is medium. But also, the radar helps you in another way. It shows you when it detects that a lighter traffic is behind a heavier traffic. It tells you with these delimitators that this is the minimum distance that should be respected. So the ideal situation is that the succeeding traffic doesn't cross this line. This is what it's going to tell you with a virtual reference, the distance to be respected at the same level. Of course, if there is 1000 feet separation, is not as relevant, but it becomes relevant when that distance is reduced. And the importance of this is that if in the final path one traffic is too close to a heavier traffic, then the traffic won't land. It will go around and it's going to mess up your sequence. So it's very important to respect this distance. And of course, in real life, it would mean that that is extremely dangerous. So together with the wake turbulence, this is a different concept, the aircraft performance. But we're going to focus on the minimum approach speed. But first, let's categorize the planes. The categories are two, slow and fast. But then you have another category that are super fast. For example, the slow ones are the small ones. You have a Cessna, you have a Diamond, you have a helicopter. The helicopter is considered as slow traffic. Then you have a fast one, which is the other airliners. And then you have the super fast ones, which are the jets, in this case the Concorde, which is not in use today. And you have spaceships. But in this case, because we don't deal with these ones, we're going to focus only on the slow and the fast. So what happens? How do you define if traffic is slow or it's fast? We have an approximate equivalence to wake turbulence category. So in this case, we're going to separate these two into three categories. The slow, the fast one, and the fast two. The slow, you're going to always have it as light. So all the lights, all the traffics that have wake turbulence as light, they are going to automatically be considered as low. To make it simpler, every traffic that you see the L is going to be considered as low. Then, every traffic that is medium, and of course you're not going to see the M on the radar, is going to be considered as fast one. And the heavies and the supers are going to be considered as fast two. Why this? Because you only have the reference of the wake turbulence category, so this is the equivalent of the aircraft performance. And as I was talking about the minimum approach speed, is the minimum speed at which the aircraft can continue flying on the final path without stalling. So from the pilot's perspective, it's in their interest to fly as low as possible when they're in the final path, because then they will have a smoother landing, and also they have more control over the airplane. So as you can see, the light traffic only needs 60 knots, between 60 and 90, but the super needs at least 170. So of course, if you sequence a super traffic behind a light traffic, there is no problem with wake turbulence, but there is a problem that this traffic is going to catch this other one, because it's going to go faster. So again, which is the minimal horizontal distance, but in this case to aircraft performance, not because of wake turbulence, but because of aircraft performance, not to mess up the sequencing. In this case, the minimum distance is applied when a heavier traffic is behind a lighter traffic. In wake turbulence, this is the difference. In wake turbulence, it's when a lighter traffic is behind a heavier traffic. But regarding aircraft performance, it's when a heavier traffic is behind a lighter traffic. For aircraft performance, we don't count the last two because they have the same, approximately the same aircraft performance. So we count the last two as equal. And of course, always a 1,000 feet is safer. But for the purpose of aircraft performance, we're going to see this situation. When the light is in front of the medium, you're going to apply a 7 nautical miles. 7, not 5, 7. And the reason is because eventually the medium traffic is going to go faster in the final path than the light traffic. So you need to put some extra distance. So it's going to be 7. And when a heavy or super traffic is behind a light traffic, you're going to give a 10 nautical miles distance. You're not going to see any indicator in the Endless ATC, so you need to be careful. But here, as you see, 10 nautical miles is a huge gap. So I don't recommend sequencing a heavy or a super behind a light traffic. And I wouldn't even recommend a medium, but sometimes you don't have any other choice. So the other situation is when a heavy or super traffic is behind a medium traffic. In this case, we are going to only apply a 5 nautical miles. So this is a good thing, because when a medium traffic is behind a heavy traffic due to wake turbulence, is 5 nautical miles. When a heavy traffic is behind a medium traffic, it's 5 nautical miles, but because of aircraft performance. Of course, it's not the same situation with the super, but you already got. So we're going to see some examples when we apply a minimum distance, either for wake turbulence or aircraft performance. So in this first situation, it's a medium traffic behind a medium traffic, so there is no wake turbulence separation, and either there is no aircraft performance separation. Therefore, we apply the minimum separation, which is 3 nautical miles. In this case, a medium traffic behind a heavy traffic is wake turbulence separation and is 5 nautical miles. When we have a medium traffic behind a super, remember the distance is 7 nautical miles due to wake turbulence. And when we have medium traffic behind a light traffic, in this case, is because aircraft performance, remember, it's a heavier traffic behind a lighter traffic. So it's aircraft performance, and in this situation is 7 nautical miles because it's a medium behind a light. Then we have these other situations. A heavy behind a heavy, even though they are the same category, there is still wake turbulence separation, which is 4 nautical miles. In this other situation, we have a light traffic behind a heavy traffic, so it's a 6 nautical miles separation. In this situation, we have a heavy traffic behind a medium traffic. Remember, it's the opposite. That is aircraft performance. In this case, it's 5 nautical miles as well. And then we have a light traffic behind a medium traffic, which is wake turbulence, and it's 5 nautical miles. So try to remember these distances. Try to go again to the point where I explain all these distances. Try to memorize them and apply them. If you know the rule, you're going to be able to apply it to any situation. So now let's talk about holdings. What are holdings? That's the reason why I was talking about Navaids, because the way that we use Navaids in this situation is to organize the space. Let's say that we have this sequence, these 2 downlink legs that are going to end up in the final path to the airport. But for some reason or the other, we have a lot of more planes here, and we need to organize these planes in order to descend them correctly and put them in the sequence as well. But we're not able to put them here directly because it's kind of overloaded. So in this case, we're going to use these holding patterns that are based on the VOR Delta Oscar Romeo and the VOR Sierra Echo Tango. And as you see, the direction of the holding is done in this way because it's easier to sequence them after passing the VOR. So in this case, we're going to send direct vectors to the VOR, and then the planes are going to start the holding pattern. So we send these traffics a direct vector to the VOR, and then they're going to be organized. But this is only so in 2 dimensions. Let's see how it works in 3 dimensions. In this case, once the traffic reaches the lower level, and then it crosses the VOR, then it's ready to leave the holding pattern and to join the sequence. So in this case, this is how it happens. It's an organized descent. This one is going to leave the holding and give space for this one, and this is going to give space for this one, and so on, so on, so on. So like this, you have an organized descent. But only use this option if it's extremely necessary. Of course, if you have the skills, you won't really use this unless you have an emergency and you need to reorganize the airspace. And talking about emergencies, how do you deal with emergencies? Of course, this is a very simplistic way of dealing with emergencies because due to the capabilities of Endless ATC, you cannot apply it completely like in real life. So first, let's differentiate between emergencies and urgencies. So the emergency in this case is called by the pilot by Mayday, 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 and is when the integrity of the airplane and its maneuverability are already in danger. That means that that plane is going to crash or something like this. So in this case, the most common ones are burst strike, which create an engine failure, or for example fire on board, which disintegrates the structure of the plane. So those situations are very dangerous. So when a plane has this situation, has the top priority to land into the airport. But usually what you're going to see in Endless ATC is an engine failure. And the urgency is not as urgent, ironically, it's not as urgent as the emergency. And it's when the integrity of the airplane and its maneuverability can become in danger in the future, but are not necessarily now in danger. And then certain situations when there are medical emergencies and other issues that require some priority, usually what the pilot says is pam 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 pam. Usually you're going to hear this in Endless ATC instead of mayday, mayday, mayday. So be aware when you hear pam 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 pam, that means that there is an emergency or an urgency in Endless ATC, of course. So the most common reasons for urgency is a system malfunction or medical emergency. And the most frequent one that you're going to see in the Endless ATC is going to be the medical emergency. So how do you react to the emergency when you hear? First of all, don't panic, don't get nervous, because of course it's a game, but even if you were in real life, you shouldn't panic. You should just follow the ZIS method, which is acknowledge, let the pilot know that you are aware of the emergency, separate the traffic from the other traffics, so give some distance in order to create the airspace a bit safer, create silence on the frequency, so if the pilot needs to contact you or something, you can respond immediately, inform to the other adjacent controllers, especially the tower controller, who is going to deal with the departures and arrivals to the airport, landings and takeoffs, and the center controller, who is going to stop the arrivals in order to give you some space to deal with the emergency. But also it can be that there are some adjacent approach controllers that you should inform too. And then the support, which is in case that the pilot contacts you, you will be able to get any kind of information. You're going to request what they need, and you're going to try to help as much as you can. And then give the pilot time to perform the operation that they need to operate. In this case, for practical reasons, you can only apply 3 of them, which are separate, silence, and time, because you have direct control of it. So in this case, let's see how you can separate traffics in a reliable way. Of course, you cannot do it exactly as in real life. So the first situation here, we have a traffic on emergency here, and you already have the sequence that is going to define a path. So in this case, you just join into that sequence, and that's it. Don't try to put it before, because it's going to mess up your sequence, and most of the times it's going to be just enough. In this other situation, where you can try to put it a bit with some priority, you can do this method, which is try to get these planes wider, so you have enough time to put this one, for example, behind this one. In this other situation, you need to intercalate the traffic, so you need to deviate this traffic a bit, and then maybe this put it behind some of them. As you can see, if you do this procedure, you're going to put this traffic in front of these two, and this is traffic intercalation. When we're going to talk about advanced sequencing, you're going to see this concept again. So pay attention and stay until the end, because you're going to see this concept again and how you can apply that in order to create the best sequences possible. So how do you apply silence? In this case, you're going to see this menu here. If you go to the left side, you're going to see the sound. So if you put sound 1, the traffics are going to contact you only with the call sign. They're not going to say any other stuff. So you just are aware that that traffic needs to be dealt with. But they don't talk a lot, so you can keep the silence in the frequency. And after the emergency is finished, you can put it sound 2 or sound 3, it's your preference. So now the most 2 important sides: advanced separation and advanced sequencing. So While separation, we focus on conflict prevention and dealing with conflicts. Let's talk about conflict prevention in this case. How do you prevent conflict? There are horizontal techniques and there are vertical techniques. Let's talk first about the horizontal techniques. You need at least 3 nautical miles, except if there is wake turbulence, of course, because if there is wake turbulence, you need to apply the wake turbulence separation. But let's say that there is no wake turbulence, both traffics are medium. In this case, you need 3 nautical miles separation minimum. So in order to avoid any kind of conflict, you can just apply an additional 1 nautical miles or 2 nautical miles extra in order to ensure that in case that there is some kind of conflict, that those traffic are never going to meet. So instead of applying the minimum distance, you can apply 1 extra mile, and then you ensure that the minimum distance is not going to be infringed. So in the case of the wake turbulence, if the minimum distance is 5 nautical miles, you can apply 6 nautical miles, and in this case you can ensure that if there is a problem or the traffic doesn't follow the instruction, then you have like 1 extra gap. And then maintain always the same ground speed. Remember, the same ground speed near the sea level is the same indicated airspeed, but when there are different altitudes, you need to bear in mind the impact that the altitude does on the ground speed. Another technique is to always make the behind traffic to divert a bit. So this one is going to continue straight, but because this second traffic is going to fly in zigzag, the distance is going to be increased. So when you want to increase distance and the traffic is just behind the other, you can give additional vectors in order to deviate the traffic a bit and create some distance. Another way of increasing distance, in this case laterally, you let the first traffic, for example here, to continue straight, and you give additional vectors here to the other traffic. So in this case, there is a lateral movement and the lateral distance is increased. And how do you reduce distance? For this level, and generally as a habit, I don't recommend you to reduce distance frontally, like never planes going facing each other, and never planes crossing with each other. There are certain situations where it's going to be practical to do that, but as a habit, and for this level, never do that. Instead, always deal with the traffic that is behind. So in this case, the traffic that is behind, you can have control only over one. So you don't need to rely on 2 planes to follow the instructions properly. So in this case, you advise the second traffic to increase the speed. And like this, you will ensure that you reduce distance and you only rely on 1 pilot to follow your instruction. So always deal with the traffic that is behind, not the traffic that is in front. There are certain situations where you can do that, but as a habit, don't do that. Another situation here, for example, you have the final path or the final sequence. Okay, this is the downwind, this is the base leg, and then they're going to do the final vector. So you want to put these traffics behind this one. So don't approach them like this, because again, the distance is going to be reduced, but you need to rely on 2 planes. So instead, do this technique where this traffic comes here, this traffic comes here. They are reducing distance, but they are not approaching directly into each other. And then this one, you give this vector, which is very similar, and then you're going to have this traffic behind this traffic and this traffic behind this traffic, but you're not going to compromise the minimum distance. So this option, the V vectoring that you saw before when dealing with emergencies, and you're going to see after when sequencing, is the best when you need to keep a few traffics at the same altitude. For some reason or the other, you need a few traffics in the same altitude and you need to reduce distance. The V vectoring is the best method. Another example of V vectoring is here. For example, these traffics are at the same altitude, so you cannot reduce distance like this, because then you rely on 2 traffics to respect the distance. Instead, you give this V vector. So by the time that this traffic is here, and then you can give the other vector like this. And this traffic, as it goes straight, is not going to never approach this one. because you're going to see the same concept in the sequencing graph. So let's see the vertical techniques. As I explained in previous levels, always alternate flight levels. If this one is at 3000, this one needs to be at 4000, the next one needs to be 3000 again. Like this, you ensure that even if you reduce the horizontal distance, there's going to be at least vertical separation. So this is the best way, actually. But also, still respect the horizontal distance, because you know what needs to happen. Maybe for some reason you will need to descend this one, or you will need to descend this one, then they're going to be at the same altitude. And in that case, you will need to rely on the horizontal distance. So even if you have alternate flight levels, still respect the horizontal distance. You're going to see the example here. For example, you have a sequence here of traffics, and you only have one side of the leg. So in this case, you have this one at 3000, 4000, 3000, 4000, 3000. In this case, you will ensure that when you bring this one here, and the distance is reduced, you're going to see that concept after. You ensure that these traffics are not going to reduce distance and lose the separation. So yeah, always alternate flight levels. And the recommended thing to do is to use both legs, both sides of the downwind, and then alternate the last flight level. For example, here, you see that the level at which you bring this one here is going to be always 3000. It's not the safest way to do that, but it's the most practical, in my opinion, because you always ensure that the traffics that are coming to face each other, they are at different levels, and then you have your own alternate levels in each leg. And the safest one, of course, is to alternate both levels, but here you have 4000, 5000, 4000, 5000. But in my opinion, it's not the most optimal, because then you have traffics here flying faster than these ones. Because if you have the same indicated airspeed here, the traffics that are higher, they are flying faster. And you see this concept in the elementary level. So go ahead and watch that video if you didn't watch it. So how do you prevent conflicts within a terminal maneuver area? You see here the runway, you see here the final path and the downwind leg, the circuit pattern, and you see here the departures. Here usually the traffics are departing from this runway and they're going to the standard instrument departures. You have the minimum radar vector altitudes here. So naturally you will need to avoid this area, because this is the area where a lot of departures happen. So when you're approaching traffics to these circuit patterns, you will need to avoid these areas. So here you have one traffic at flight level 100. You need to descend them to whatever is the final altitude here. So how do you do that? You apply the first descent. The first descent is going to be to 6000 feet, because here there is a minimum radar vector altitude. So in order to ensure that the traffic is going to respect that, the first descent is going to be to 6000 feet. And once they leave this airspace here, then they're going to do the further descent. In this case, because we don't have any other minimum radar vector altitude, the traffic can descend from here directly to 3000 feet, because this is going to be the final descent before going to the ILS. But in this case, you have here the traffic that is going to face another radar vector altitude. So in this case, you descend from here to 5000, and once they reach here, then they descend to 2000. So let's talk about conflict avoidance. Remember, conflict prevention is anticipating potential conflicts and taking actions to not to put the planes at risk. Conflict avoidance is more about the situation already happened, so you need to deal with that situation. Because if you don't deal with that situation, there's going to be a conflict. You have, let's say, 4 categories of conflicts. You have the look-up conflict, the potential conflict, the imminent conflict, and the actual conflict. So the look-up conflict is when there is more than 3 minutes until the actual conflict will happen. The potential conflict, you have that if there is maximum 3 minutes to the conflict alert, where there is going to be the actual conflict, then it's a potential conflict. So if you see the speed lines that the planes are 3 minutes from the conflict, then it's already a potential conflict. Then you have the imminent conflict, that in 1 minute you will have the conflict already, and you have the conflict alert. So how do you deal with potential conflicts? In this situation, you have two traffics that are going to cross to each other at the same altitude, 6,000 and 6,000. Because it's a potential conflict, that means that in 3 minutes, you're going to have, between 1 minute and 3 minutes, you're going to have the conflict. So this is a dangerous situation. In this situation, because it's a potential conflict, you just advise to one of the traffics to climb 1,000 feet or descend 1,000 feet. It depends. If this traffic is departing, tell him to climb 1,000 feet. If the traffic is arriving, tell him to descend. Just try to think what is the most optimal thing to do. In this case, you tell this traffic to descend. So in this case, they are going to be separated and the conflict is going to be solved before it happens. Then in this situation, you have a traffic that is 8,000 feet but is descending to 3,000 feet. You have a traffic that is 2,000 feet that is coming to flight level 130. As you can see, this traffic is going to cross this traffic. Okay? So this is a potential conflict because it's between 1 minute and 3 minutes. So in this case, you're going to advise one of the traffic, which is the descending traffic, to stop at certain level, the descent. You're going to advise the climbing traffic to stop the climb at a certain level. So in this case, you're going to tell this traffic to stop the climb at 4,000 feet and to this traffic to stop the descent at 5,000 feet. So like this, you're going to have at least 1,000 feet of separation when they cross here. This is in a potential conflict. What happens when there is maximum 1 minute until the conflict? In the imminent conflict, remember that you told to just one traffic. Because it's imminent, that means that it's very close to the situation. So in this case, you need the conflict to be solved faster. In this situation, if it's an imminent conflict, that means 1 minute, in 1 minute you will have the conflict. That means that you need to tell to both. For example, this one of the traffics needs to descend 1,000 feet. One of the traffics needs to climb 1,000 feet. So within half of a minute, you will have already the 1,000 feet separation, because one of them is at 6,500 feet and the other is at 5,500 feet. So in this situation, you already solved the conflict, and in the end it's going to be 2,000 feet separation. But the point was to create the 1,000 feet gap faster. That was the point. And then you have this situation, which is the descending and the climbing traffic. In this situation, it's an imminent conflict because it's within 1 minute. And then you have 4,500 feet flying to flight level 130. So in this case, you don't have really time to stop the descent or to stop the climb. In this case, you just divert the traffic. You give diverting vector. But in that situation, both traffics must turn left or both traffic needs to turn right at the same time. So if I tell this one turn left, this one is going to turn left as well. If I tell this traffic turn right, this one is going to turn right as well. So this is how you deal with imminent conflicts. Now let's talk about the last topic before the practical part, and it's the advanced sequencing. So advanced sequencing is all about mastering the longitudinal separation. So basically, it's calculating ahead of time what is going to happen in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. In this case, how do you master the horizontal distance between two traffics? As I was telling before, both traffics might fly on the same heading. Because if both traffics are flying on the same heading, you're going to ensure that the horizontal distance is going to be respected. But at the same time, also both traffics must fly at the same ground speed. So if they're flying on the same heading and at the same speed, the distance is for sure going to be maintained. So in this situation, you see this concept of the little train, let's say like this. Both traffics are flying in the same heading at the same ground speed. So therefore, the distance is maintained. In this same situation, both traffics are flying on the same heading at the same speed. So this lateral distance, that is horizontal as well, is maintained. And this is parallel vectoring, let's say like this. And then you may have a hybrid of the previous two. So you have this horizontal distance, that because both traffics are flying on the same heading and at the same speed, this diagonal distance is maintained. So, what happens when traffics are flying on different headings? So what happens is the following. If both traffics are flying towards their intersection point, because if they're flying different headings, there's always an intersection point. If both traffics are flying towards their intersection point, that means that they are always reducing distance. You see the different examples here. If traffics are flying different headings and they are flying towards the intersection point, that means that they are reducing distance always. In this situation, this is what you saw before, the example of ways to reduce distance in a safe way. So in this situation, you see that if both traffics are flying towards their intersection point, they are reducing distance. But this, in the situation of conflict prevention, is a very risky way to do it, so I don't recommend it. So you know that if you see this traffic and this traffic, you know that automatically they are reducing distance. So you need to do something about it if that's something that you don't want to face. The other situation is that if both traffics are flying from their intersection point, they are always increasing distance. You see these examples. Both traffics already passed the intersection point. So in this case, you see? So in situations where you need to analyze if there's going to be a problem, you can identify what is the heading of both traffics. And if they are flying from the intersection point, you can be sure that the distance is not going to be reduced. And the other situation, this is the most complex one, because is when one traffic is flying towards the intersection point and the other is flying from it. So one is flying towards the intersection point, the other is flying from the intersection point. That means that they will reduce distance. And this is very difficult to understand, so I will go ahead with the explanation. There is a critical cycle where the departing traffic, if it's flying from the intersection point but is still in the critical cycle, that means that the planes are still reducing distance. But once this traffic is leaving the critical cycle, they are already increasing distance. So this is what it says here. They will reduce distance until the leaving traffic gets out of the critical cycle, then they will increase distance. So here, if the traffic is here, until this traffic reaches here, they are reducing distance. But once the traffic leaves this space, they are increasing distance. So there are going to be situations where you will determine whether or not it's safe to maintain both traffics with the same headings. So you need to bear in mind this. How do you calculate it more or less? Because of course you will never know the critical distance. So usually the critical distance is half the distance between the intersection point and the traffic that is going towards the point. So for example, in this case, the traffic is going towards the point. So at the middle of this distance, then this is going to be the radius of this circumference. And that circumference is going to be the critical cycle. This is not exactly like this, but as a quick reference, you can use this method. So yeah, try to understand this concept. And there are going to be situations where you're going to face this situation where you need to analyze if it's safe to keep both traffics in the same heading. So how do you reduce distance wisely? There are going to be situations where, for example, one traffic is flying towards this situation. This traffic is on the final path, and you want to sequence this traffic behind this traffic, but you don't want to put it too far away because you want to optimize the space. So actually, you want to reduce the distance. And what happens if you maintain the same vectors? Remember, this vector, this traffic, the intersection point is somewhere here. because this traffic is flying here and this traffic is flying here, so the intersection point is here. So what happens when this traffic is at least in the circumference of half the distance of the intersection point from this one? They are going to increase distance. So therefore, if you maintain this traffic like this, the distance will increase. So you need to reduce the distance by shortening this intersection point. You want to change the intersection point. In this case, you don't give this vector because they're going to increase distance with that. You want to give this vector because within time they're going to reduce distance, but not enough distance, so it's going to be dangerous. Another situation here, you have this one. This traffic is coming here, so the intersection point is here already. So by the time that the traffic is here, they're going to increase distance. So of course you don't want to give this vector. You want to give a more direct vector, like this. Because like this, you're going to reduce distance more wisely. So again, these are situations where you potentially want to sequence one traffic behind another. But if you give this vector, the distance is going to be increased and it's not going to be optimal for your sequence. And there are situations where you want to do just the opposite. The traffics are too close to each other. So you just want to increase the distance a bit. So there is no danger. For example, let's say that the wake turbulence is like here, the delimitator is here. So the traffic is a bit close. So you need to increase the distance a bit. In this case, you don't give this vector because they're going to maintain the same distance. In this case, you want to give another vector wider. Okay? So you're going to increase the distance a bit because this traffic is flying from the intersection point. Another situation here, if you want to increase distance because these traffics are very close to each other, of course you're not going to give this direct vector because they will maintain the distance. You want to give a more open vector so you can increase the distance. So another thing, when you want to master the longitudinal separation, is the anticipation, where the traffic is going to be. So in this situation, usually in Endless ATC you have the position of the traffic and you have a speed vector. So this line, what tells you is where is going to be the traffic in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Let's see that you have the 1 minute marker. So that means that within 1 minute, this plane is going to be here. So that's how you anticipate where the traffic is going to be in 1 minute. So how that is useful? Because in this situation where you have two traffics, this traffic you know that in 1 minute is going to be here and this traffic is going to be in 1 minute here. So you're going to have this distance. So if you want to sequence this one behind this one, it's better to give this vector because in 1 minute you will have approximately this distance and this is the distance that you want. And another thing that you need to anticipate is the time. This is the most difficult thing to anticipate because it's not that intuitive. How long is going to take to complete the task? The turning time is very straightforward. Response time, which is usually 4 seconds, plus the degrees to turn. For example, if you are at 240 and you need to change the vector to 210, that's the degrees to turn is the minus. So for example, there is a 30 degrees difference. So in this case, you're going to change 30 degrees. And the turning speed, which is usually 3 degrees per second. So that is the turning time. So for example, the average response time is 4 seconds. Average turning speed is 2 degrees per second. So approximately, when you want to change 30 degrees, it's going to take around 14 seconds. 45 degrees is going to take around 19, and so on, so on, so on. These are quick references that you can take into account. So, for example, you have the situation where the traffic is heading 190 and you want the traffic to follow this path specifically in this radius, in this heading. So you said that you're going to change 100 degrees the direction. So what is the anticipation distance to this radius? like how many miles do you need to anticipate the turn in order to have this plane specifically here. In this situation, you do the calculation, which is the speed of the plane multiplied by the turning time. And in this situation, you're going to calculate it like this. So the speed is normally 200 knots, let's say, in the final circuit. So 200 knots is approximately 0.056 nautical miles per second. And the turning time for 100 degrees is this calculation. Actually, you need another parenthesis here, but yeah, you understand the point. And it's that 4 plus 100 divided by 3 is approximately 37 seconds. Sorry for the mistake here. We need a parenthesis here. So if you calculate the speed plus the turning time, it's going to be approximately 2.1 nautical miles. So the anticipation distance to the radial of this heading is going to be 2.1 nautical miles. But of course, you don't need to calculate this every time that you're controlling. So the quick reference for 200 knots is when you need to do a 15-degree turn, the anticipation is half mile. Usually it's going to be very interesting to do a 19-degree turn. It's going to be usually 2 nautical miles. So when you need to do a complete turn, the distance between this radial and this radial needs to be at least 4 nautical miles in order to make sure that when the traffic is going to turn, it's not going to overpass the radial. And also, some people were asking me in the comments that what is the landing frequency, because of course, depending if you have 2 runways, in one runway you can use the runway for departures, and the other runway you only can use it for arrivals. In this case, you're going to have a more frequent landing. So for example, here in the segregated runways, you're going to have 1 landing per minute, and here you will have 1 landing every 2 or 3 minutes because you want to intercalate the landings with the departures. So because we usually deal with 2 runways airport, we're going to separate the traffics in the final path by 1 minute. So how do you do the traffic intercalation in a 2 runway airport? Okay, so in this case you have 1 minute distance, because as you see, there is 1 runway specifically for arrivals, so you can do the distance with 1 minute. So in this case, you can put this traffic here. If you want to intercalate this traffic behind this one, you just deviate this one to achieve this distance of 1 minute, and then you send both traffics to the sequence again. In this situation, for example, you have this traffic that you need to put it between the 2, because you see here that there is a 2 minutes distance. So you can put it in between, so you can create 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute distance. So you just put it behind. And then you have another solution, which is in case that you cannot intercalate the traffic, you just extend the approach so you have more gap to put it behind this one. So this is the end of the theoretical part. So the airport that we're going to use for the practical part is Amsterdam. So again, if you're liking this video so far, click the like button and see you in the practical part. Hello guys, welcome to the practical part of this Endless ATC course, intermediate level. Today we are in Amsterdam, so go to the airspace, go to the airport section and click EHAM, Echo Hotel Alpha Mike. Then I'm going to show you some configurations that you will need to follow. So let's start a new game in this case. And the first thing that we're going to change is the runway configuration, because we're going to use, in this case, 1/8 right for arrivals and 1/8 left for departures. The sound, we're going to change it to 2 with readbacks, excluding readbacks. Then the display, we're going to put ring 0 and line 1 minute. let's send this guy here. And the traffic, we're going to custom it. The skill, we're going to put 8 in order to have traffic arriving to Rotterdam. And the flow, we're going to put it at 50 per hour. After that, I think we are ready to do the session. So just as a quick revision, here we have this circuit, so we can do 2 legs here. The traffic's arriving to Rotterdam because the airspace is going to be very busy. What we're going to do is to bring them here to Papa Alpha Mike, and then from Papa Alpha Mike we're going to bring them to this area, and from here we're going to descend them and to send them to the localizer of Rotterdam. And here we're going to use Papa Alpha Mike and sometimes Sierra Papa Yankee in order to create the sequences from this side. And from here we're going to do a normal downwind leg. So let's start like this. And I'm going to play a bit the game, and I'm going to come back when I have quite a few more traffics. Perfect. So now we have a few traffics, so we're going to start the sequence. Remember that here we're going to do the downwind leg as well. So we can start, for example, sending this traffic here to 3000 feet, speed 220, this is 200 to give space to this one. And this one we're going to bring him closer to 4000 feet, speed 220. This one we're going to send him here and descend to 5000 in this case. We need to be careful with the traffics that are departing from here, because the traffics that are coming to Rotterdam, we're going to bring to bring them to this area. So we need to be careful with that. I think this one is going to arrive quicker. If not, we can give a diverting vector to separate them a bit more, and then we're going to decide whether we're going to approach them more or not. So this one we can send him with center controller. This one is going to undick, so we need to be a bit careful here. Traffic departing from Rotterdam, but it's going to the east, so we can send him normally. And this one we're going to give him a quick vector in order to avoid the conflict. Perfect. So in this case, I think we can already send him here. And this one 010. So we already have 1, 2, and 3, and then 4. Just give. So let's delay this one a bit more. Descend to 6000 feet. 220. Remember, this one is 5000 feet. So this 6000 feet. Here we're going to reduce the speed 200. And here we're going to do a V vectoring technique in order to approach the traffic closer. Remember, here the minimum radar vectoring altitude is 3000 feet. So this one we need to establish the traffic before this boundary here. Okay. So we're going to bring him a bit wider here. And this one is coming after. So 200 and intercalating. And this one we can bring him like this. 3000 feet. For the moment, 220. We're going to decide later. So this one we can send him like this to 2000 feet and descend immediately, but we need to be careful with the vector. So in this case we're going to give this vector instead. So when we send him, and this one we can send him with center controller. So this one ILS, and this one 130. And here we do a V vectoring technique, 310 approximately. Here we can intercalate this one behind this one, so we're going to send him directly, like this, and 2000 feet. And this one we're going to bring him wider and slower. So in this case we can send him directly to the ILS. And this one we're going to send him with center controller. So 1 minute, 1 minute. Let's bring him a bit closer here, like this, 280. We're going to delay this one a bit to descend to 3000 and speed 220 knots. This one is already established, so we send him with tower. And currently we have 10 planes under control, sorry. So we send him directly, and this one 200. Okay. Perfect. I think there shouldn't be any problem. But yeah, we're going to try. Let's see what happens. Maybe we're going to have a conflict alert here, but I'm not going to spoil the sequence now. So let's put 140. This is the maximum angle because it's 180. And then here we're going to bring him to 220. Actually, we're going to bring him to 110. And this one, we're going to bring him a bit wider, 330. And then this one, we can bring him a bit wider as well, 200. And then we have another traffic here. We can send him like this. Yeah, 3000 feet is okay. Theoretically, we should sequence this one before this marker, but I think in this case there is no problem. This one is already established to ILS, sorry, and this one we can send him with center control because it's clear of traffic. It's more efficient. So this one is going to come after this one. So we're going to bring him a bit wider, 345, and this one we can send him directly here, 080. And this one we can send him already like this, descend to 2000 and clear it ILS. This one is established already, so we send him with tower. And this one we can bring him already, like this. And this one we delay him a bit to 4000 feet and 220 knots. Yeah, I think this should be okay. This one we send him immediately because there is a traffic here at 2000. This one is established already. And I think this one is going to come after, so. And we need to be careful because it's a medium traffic behind a heavy traffic. So we need to create a bit of distance between this one and this one. This one, I think I'm not going to intercalate it. So I'm going to bring him here to 4000 feet and speed 220. And the reason why I'm not going to intercalate it is because I have already like 5 planes here in the sequence. I think this one is going after. So I'm going to send this one wider finally. And I'm going to bring this one closer. This one is established, so we send him with tower. And this one, we can send him to 5000 feet. This one is going as well. We send him. This one is clear of tracks, so we can send him with control. So this one, we can bring him like this, 090. We need to be careful with these gaps because every minute counts. So in this case, I think we can bring this one like this. This one 200, and this one V vectoring, like this 050, and then final vector. Establish. And this one I think we're going to die, but it's a bit dangerous, so let's bring him closer like this. 130, and then this one here to 3000 feet. 220, and this one I think still is not safe, so we're going to wait a bit before sending to 3000 feet. This one we can already send him. 210 is going to take a while to do the turn, so 210 ILS, and this one very shortly we're going to bring him as well. So 120 here, KLM 96, and then this one is already coming to the ILS. We should actually send him a bit, but yeah, anticipating the time that it's going to take to do the turn, I think we're going to descend him like this. So this one like this, I think it's going to overpass it, but yeah. Let's do it like this, 200, because it's going to overpass it. Okay, so this one to 2000 feet to avoid any conflict. This one to 13,000. This one to 13,000 as well. And this one, I think we can descend him to 2000. Again, I don't recommend this. Always follow the path, but in this case, I think it's practical to do that. Sorry. Cancel in this case. And as you can see, the distance is maintained. So this one we're going to approach him like this. And actually I'm going to keep 3000 feet, but I need to be careful. So this one is going to approach now. 200. And this one, I'm not going to intercalate it, so I'll bring him 4000 feet. 220. This one we can bring him already, like this. 350, 200, and 3000 feet. This one 200, and this one 200. By the way, this one we can send him already, like this. 240. This is established, so bye bye. And this one we can give the final vector and clear the ILS. This one is established with tower, and I think we can intercalate this one here, but we need to be careful because it's the same altitude. So in this case, we bring him like this, 100, and this one we descend him to 3000 feet immediately. And this one we can send him like this, 210. Yeah, I think it should be fine. And actually I'm going to put this one behind because they are close. So 290, we need to be careful because this is a medium and this is a heavy. Actually it would be better to put this one because it's less distance, but let's do it like this. 300, 220, and this one to 200 as well. This one we can give him to increase the distance a bit. And this one is established, so we send him with tower. This one we send him to 13,000, sorry. And this one we can bring him already. This one we can descend him to 3000 feet ILS. And this one we're going to make it a bit wider. 4,000 feet, 220, and this one to 13,000. And this one 200, like this. And we already have the sequence here. Actually, let's try to bring him here. I will try to intercalate this one behind this one, in front of this one. It's going to be very difficult, but I will try that. I will try it at least. And we need to be careful because this is at 3,000 feet. But yeah, it's a heavy behind a medium, so it's 5 nautical miles only. This one like this. This at 200. And yeah, I think I'm going to divert this one here because it's very important. I'm going to descend him to 6,000 feet because if there is a traffic departing from Rotterdam, they're going to climb, I think, to 5,000 feet. So speed to 20, and then we're going to bring him like this in V vectoring. Remember, V vectoring. 290. This one is already established. 13,000. And this one we're going to give a wide angle, so 140 ILS. And this one is very important that we bring him immediately because I want to intercalate it. And like this is very easy because we have 3,000, 2,000, and then I'm going to give 3,000, so this one I'm going to give 2,000. This one we send him to 3,000, 220. And now that this one is descending, then we're going to give 3,000 feet. And this one I can already send him like this, 240. I think I will be on time. So this one we can send him is clear of traffic, so send him with control. Actually it was a mistake because here it's not clear of traffic, but yeah, anyways. I'm going to send him to 13,000. This one we can already send him like this, 120. And this one like this. And this one we can already... I think I'm going to delay it a bit more. Yeah, because we have all traffics like this. So I'm going to delay it. This one is fine. So this one, actually, I'm going to send him like this. 215. This one I'm going to intercalate it here. 100 to 4,000 feet. To 220, yeah. And then this one we can send him already. 160 ILS. It's going to be fine. But we need to, of course, descend to 2,000 here. Again, I don't recommend you to do this because here the maximum is 3,000 feet, but in this case it's going to be practical to do it like this. V vectoring here, so 0, 900, 200, and like this. Actually I'm going to divert it again. 6,000, 220. Yeah, so basically you have this. It's a heavy behind a heavy, so there is no problem. Yeah, this one went intercalated, so let's put it like this. 070. And this one we can send him already. 140. This one we're going to bring him like this. And then this one is going to go behind this one. It's not clear of traffic, so we don't send him yet. Clear, clear. So it was successful to intercalate this one. This one we can bring him already. 0900. Yeah, like this. Like this. 200. Continue at 4000 in this case. This one we send him like this. This one descend to 4000 to 20. And the reason why I give this vector is to divert him. This one we have a departure from Rotterdam, so pay attention to what I'm going to do now. This one we can send him like this. So we have lateral longitudinal separation. This one we can send him. This one we can give him like 060 more or less. Descend to 4000. Yeah. So this traffic is departed to 3000 feet, but because it's flying this way, there is no conflict. So I'm going to send him 13,000. So in this case, I'm going to descend this one to 4,000 feet. Actually 3,000 feet, so it doesn't conflict with this traffic. And this one we can give him final vector 150 and clear tailors. This one we send him with center controller, and this one we give an immediate climb because he's going to come here, so there is a potential conflict here, but he is on time. So yeah, now I'm going to bring him here because the purpose was to delay a bit so we can put these two traffics as well. So 160 clear ILS, and this one we can give 155 or even 160. No, 155 and clear ILS. This one we will put him behind this one, so 5000 and 220. This one we will put him behind this KLM31 Mike Alpha, so like this. Actually like this, 200, sorry. And this one he can go behind this one. 5000 feet, 220. Change to tower. This one it can come here now. And this one can descend to 2000. So we can descend after this one to 3000. And actually I'm going to bring him a bit closer. 136, 135. And we need to be ready to put this one in the sequence. So we need to be careful. This one is going to be at 2000, so we can descend this one at 3000. And this one we're going to descend it to 2000, following the same pattern. This one we will descend him to 4000, or even 4000 is okay. Papa Alpha Mike and then 360. And then this one we send him with control. This one we give immediate climb because there is a potential conflict with these ones, but it's going to be solved in this case. And this one we can send him like this, 090. This one, actually we can give a narrower vector, and then this one we can bring him like this. We need to be careful because this one is coming behind this one, so we give this vector to this one, 310. And this one, 300, more or less. This one we send him with tower. Immediate climb. Actually, I think I'm going to descend this one to 3000 feet. This one to 3000 feet here. actually 4,000 feet, 220, and this one to 3,000 feet here, 220. And this one we can set him like this as well. There is no problem with turbulence. And this one is at 4,000 feet. Let's descend to 3,000 feet. This one is coming after, so we're going to set him like this. Descend to 3,000. And this one descend to 4,000. Let's bring it like this. This one, see, climb. Oh, crazy. But yeah, they're going different directions, so no problem. So this one, 200. Actually, I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm going to bring this one wider here, and I'm going to put this one behind this one. 4,000, 220. Let's bring this one already. ILS. This one ILS. This one ILS. And this one behind. Okay, this is crazy. I didn't notice this. Yeah, I was wondering why this traffic was at only 9,000 cleared. But yeah, we can send him with center. And yeah, so the idea is to put this one behind this one. So let's put it like this. 260. This one I think I'm not going to intercalate it because we have a lot of traffic here. This one we can bring him like this. 275, yeah. This one like this, and to 3,000 feet. 220. So this one also ILS. And we have this one that is already established. This one is going to be established now, so no problem. And then we send this one to center control, and then we send this one to 13,000. As you can see, I never struggled with the traffics, and we have a continuous flow here. We already have 34 minutes. We have already 26 takeoffs, and we have 14 landings, but we have a lot of arrivals here. As you can see, I never struggled. So let's bring this one here to 10 because this one is going to 00, and this one is going to be established. So let's plan ahead here. Yeah, this one needs to come here already, and I think I can put this one behind. So it's 220, sorry, 5,000 feet for the moment, and this one like this, and 200 and 200. So this one we can bring him here like this already, because otherwise I'm going to miss it. So it's handoff because it's already established. This one clear ILS, and let's plan ahead here. But first let's send this one to 13,000. So here we have 1, 2. So in this case we're going to bring this one already. Descend to, let's risk a bit. Okay, let's not risk in this case. Let's bring this one closer, 270, and this one we descend to 3,000 feet. That means that this one probably is going to be this one. So we bring this one closer and descend to 2,000, and this one we bring him wider, 360. In this case we bring this one like this, yeah, 100, and then we have a beautiful sequence. This one we're going to delay him a bit, 6,000, because the maximum here is 6,000. Let's do it safely. And then this one I'm going to descend him to 2,000 feet. I'm going to be so ruthless. This one we can bring him 205, clear ILS, and this is going to come after. And after this one, so I'm going to bring him closer already. 065. This one is established, and this one is going to be established now. So we're going to send him. So this one we're going to send him like this. No, because they are at the same altitude for the moment. So this one I'm going to reduce him to 200, and this one here to 4,000 feet. And 200 even. Yeah. So basically this one we can set in this vector. 225, no, 230. But we don't clear to the islands yet. Bam. So I think I showed you more or less how it works. If you plan ahead, you bear in mind all the concepts that I explained you in the beginner level, elementary level, and intermediate level. You're going to do it very easily. So because this is already very close to the localizer, we're going to bring him, and we're going to put this one behind 340, and this one needs to be at 200, and let's bring it like this. This one 360, and what I'm going to do, I will close the airspace, I will finish vectoring the traffics, and thank you very much. If you really like the video, hit the like button, because that is how YouTube is going to understand that you like this video, and then I will be able to create the advanced level. And I hope that you learned a lot with this version, and see you next time.